Since Phantom Parade has been out for a good while now, the roster has grown significantly bigger. Granted, it's mostly repeats of the same few characters, but hey, that's still more units overall. So as a result of this larger roster and the ever-changing metas becoming more and more clear, it becomes more obvious who the best units in the game are and who the worst units in the game are. In this video, I'm going to go through my bottom 5 worst SSRs in the game currently. Let me know if you agree down below. I will say, however, these aren't really ordered. These are just the worst 5 SSRs overall. I will kind of go from category to category though, starting with yellow. But with that being said, let's get started with our first worst unit. So as I said, we are starting with yellow, and in turn we are starting with Dagon. Now, I've previously made a video about the 4 free-to-play Disaster Curse units. I discussed why this dude is really stinky, but I'll say so again for brevity's sake here. There's a lot of reasons why this Dagon is terrible. Least obviously, one thing that really makes this Dagon pretty bad is one of the best debuffers for yellow specifically is Degumi, and because he is a domain-based unit, like most of his damage comes from activating his ult and using his skills inside of his ult. Because of that, he can't be ran alongside Degumi, which is a real shame because it means he loses out on a lot of potential damage. But overall, this dude's kit just feels pretty confused. His damage outside of domain is genuinely some of the worst in the game, in my opinion, outside of domain. Like, I genuinely think I could get blue rare Yuji, the defender, to do more damage if I leveled him up. Do you know how messed up that is? Like, this dude, whilst he is free to play, some of the free to play units are really busted. Granted, there's only 4, which is an absolute shame to be honest, but blue Jogo is absolutely cracked, especially after the SP stuff, and this dude really needs it, as I said before. But for example, his skill 1, 150% melee, even though he's like a Jujutsu based unit, of course. His skill 3 being exclusively an AoE, and it's only 200%. It has a chance to stop. Oh wow. And damage received by 10% for 2 turns. Wow. So it makes it very clear and abundant that the only damage you're going to get is either in and from his domain. And first of all, it's only 800, which is like, bruh. Yes, it's an AoE, but I'm pretty sure all domains are because of how they work, just as a concept. Yes, they all get slightly more damage. They all get stacks of, what's it called? They just call it continuous Jujutsu damage here, which is fair enough. But when you go to the second versions of his skills, because they're genuinely just, because they completely change once you're inside his domain, they're slightly better, like 300% to all enemies. That's a good skill 1. Granted, it's only for 6 turns, but still, this one's not terrible. All allies Jujutsu damage received. Yeah, again, not terrible. Skill 3 inflicts stacks, and it does damage and has a chance to stop. It sounds really good on paper, but when you actually use it, the fact that you can't use him alongside Degumi, he can't be healed by yellow Shoko with RCT because he's a curse. Like, there's a bunch of little downsides, as well as his stats just being too low overall, and his kit not meshing well with the rest of yellow. As I said in the video previously, he's the most dated out of the 4 curses, despite being the most recent, which is an absolute shame. There's the least to say about Dagon, if I'm completely honest. I've discussed it before. He just sucks, despite the fact he has the attacker title. He's not going to be doing anything. Degumi on his own would do more damage. Obviously, Zonji, Teenjo, like any other yellow DPS would be better. Genuinely, Junpei. Yellow Junpei will probably do a ton more damage as well, to be completely honest with you. He will genuinely do more damage, which is absurd. But yeah, there's not really much else to say about Dagon. Let's go to the next worst. As I said, we're sticking with yellow, and who on yellow is also terrible? All these units are pretty strong. I've said my opinions about this Toji. While he is relatively mid, he's still pretty good. Everyone else here is pretty sick beyond, you know, except for Inumaki. Now, everything about this unit, if I'm completely honest, kind of sucks to me. The main reason why this unit sucks so hard is because the main reason you're going to have him on your team is because of this gimmick, where he just nullifies an attack if someone's about to die, which sounds really good, and you can do it up to 3 times, which, how is that a bad thing? It's because if you think about how a team comp works in this game, you have buffers, debuffers, tanks, and attackers, right? He doesn't fit the mold of any of them. They call him an enhancer in game, I'm pretty sure. Here they call him a support, but they call him an enhancer, right? His debuff is like, what, 20% I think it is? 23% for 2 turns, which is a terrible debuff, by the way. He doesn't do any damage. So here's the thing about it. Like, any buffer or debuffer, like yellow Yaga, green Teen Ghetto, blue Ghetto, green Choso, yellow Yaga, if they're buffing and debuffing, like, they tend to be doing at least somewhat decent damage at the same time. And because of that, if you don't have a buffer or debuffer on your team, you're not only missing out the buffs and debuffs they provide, you're also missing out on the damage that they do. And as a result, not only are you missing out the damage because this dude does 0 damage, the ult percentage looks okay, but his stats aren't good enough to rectify his damage. Is genuinely terrible because the main gimmick you use him for is because of his auto skill. His skill 2 provides bugger all debuff despite being an enhancer. He heals himself, yeah, sure, but it doesn't matter if he's the only one left on the team if he can't do any damage, and he can only heal himself so many times. Like, it doesn't really matter. He just sucks. On top of all of this, because he's on yellow, oh, he stops someone from dying 3 times. That's neat. So does Junpei by activating provocation and giving himself immunity. Kind of guarantees a turn does no damage. Shoko can heal everyone, so it guarantees that they're not going to be close enough to death to die anyway. There's no reason to run this guy. Just run Junpei with a memory and or Shoko, and no one will die anyway. This auto skill is dog water. It's the main reason you would use this unit, and the unit is so dog water overall, there's no reason to use him. He is bin bag water tier. This dude, genuinely, bottom of the bottom. Trash. I will not hear any arguments. I don't care if on some tower tier list, some people put him in S because maybe he's super cracked and I'm just an idiot. I do not care. This dude sucks. I almost hate him as much as the one at the end of this. We'll get to them later. The next worst we're going to talk about quickly, because this one's kind of debatable. And when I was getting gameplay for this video, I was like, maybe they're not terrible. And that is Green Miwa. The main reason why I feel like this Green Miwa is kind of contentious in my opinion as being one of the worst, like, just units in the game, is because when you look at green, it's really stacked. Like, green is pretty much good across the board. Like, there's no unity that stick out as being bad besides like maybe 3. You could say Green Panda, but the fact that he can guarantee provocation and like damage reduction is nice, and he has a resurrection status. He's just a really worse Saki, but he still does have provocation, which is nice. And the other one being Mahito, but that's just because he's kind of outdated, but he does do percentage based damage, and he can help you get through a lot of the early content in the game. And I pretty much feel like he's going to be one of the next units to get SP buffs, in my opinion. I feel like I can feel SP buffs in this dude's future, so I don't want this video to be immediately outdated. So like, if there's 2 SP buffs per category ish, I'd say it's probably going to be Panda and Mahito. But anyway, outside of them 2, it's going to be Miwa. Now, the reason why I think Miwa is the worst, one of the worst units in green, is because she has a similar gimmick as yellow Toji, blue Yuji, that sort of thing, where over time they do more damage. Just like blue Miwa, it's the same sort of thing, except this Miwa's like battles don't really go down, they just increase. Nothing will ever like decrease battle count, right? You're under the assumption that this green Miwa is like blue Miwa or red Miwa, where she will be acting as a defender, as a tank, because she does apply symbol domain to herself, which gives her counter states, which puts you under the impression that she's going to be like specifically built for countering, but she kind of is, but she kind of isn't. It's really annoying. The way she works is like other combo based characters who build up a stat over the course of the game, which just increases their stats overall, like battle count here, as you can see. Once you get 1, you get 11% taijutsu, then ult charge rate, then crit damage by a significant margin, which is pretty decent, and then increased curse energy efficiency, whatever. And then she also gets a stat increase from all that as well. That's great, but it does take a long ass time to get that high, so I don't think she's good for sweep. Like, in my opinion, she's not the best. She can do decent damage with her ult and stuff, and she does more damage than the character I'm going to talk about at the end of the video, but she just kind of feels like she has a weird kit, because she's completely based around doing counter attacks, especially after her ult, but only her ult does provocation. She's counted as an attacker. Her kit is built around attacking, but unfortunately her kit is really weird. You really kind of have to build around her. She does suffer with cursed energy a little bit as well, because chances are you're going to be using 20 per turn for either a skill 2 or a skill 3, and as a result you're going to run out. Granted, you'll have that problem less so when you get more bateau count from using said skill 3, skill 1, skill 2, etc. If you use skill 1, you remove the counter state from a skill 2. Like, she's got an annoying kit where you use her skill 2 to get bateau count up. Cool, but then you use her skill 3 and then it cancels simple domain, it cancels counter, and then you use her skill 1 to get battle count, and you yet again use counter. Like, she's really annoying. Granted, after you use her ult and you get more battle count up and it changes how her moveset works, that's really good. She can be a much better unit, but it takes time to build up, and her damage overall isn't great. It's just on green, there are so many other good physical green DPSs. Well, so many, there's 2. Green Yuji is an absolute monster. I don't need to tell you how great he is, especially after the SP. He's a filthy animal. Like, there is no need to use Green Miwa, because the counterattack gimmick, while fun, isn't great. It doesn't do a brick of damage, and whilst it does increase bateau count, I'm pretty sure, without provocation guaranteed, it's kind of redundant. Like, I'm pretty sure when I was recording the footage for it, Ghetto kept getting attacked, because I can't provoke the enemy to attack me, which can be very annoying when you don't need to build up damage so much. Like with Green Yuji, you just spam a skill 2 1 or twice, then a skill 3, then ult. You can just do damage straight off the bat, and you don't have to wait for ult and then skill 3 and then skill 2 or whatever, like you do with Miwa. You don't have to build up damage over time. You can just do flat damage really high, really quick, and his skill ceiling, like his damage ceiling is higher than Miwa's, like way higher. Same with Nanami, but he's not strictly physical. But, you know, Nanami's damage His skill 3 when it hits black flashes is immense, better than Miwa. Green Maki as well. She's the one I've used the least out of the physical damage dealers, but I'm pretty sure she's better than Miwa, right? Like, she can do pretty decent damage too. Out of these 5 units that I'm discussing, I would say she is the best of them. She's the best of the bottom of the pile, which is a weird way to word it, but this Miwa isn't terrible. It's just blue Miwa is so much better, in my opinion. She does not as high damage, granted, but guaranteed provocation and counter and debuff on ult. Like, blue Miwa is a complete beast, right? There's not much else to say about Green Miwa. She's like the best of the bottom. Out of these 3, she is definitely the best. She at least has her uses, okay? These 2 just suck, unfortunately. You should never use these 2. Miwa, shoot her if she's all you got in your box. The next unit I'm going to talk about is someone I've talked about previous, and that is Red Todo. Now, Red Todo, as you probably understand, he was outdated when he came out, kind of, but not really. He's a weird one, right? 150 damage on his skill 1 is really not good, but he is a unit with a very high potential. Like, when he gets SP buffs, you can tell now he's going to be an absolute beast, but as it stands right now, his cursed energy cost is too high, whilst his damage is too low. With exception of his ult not doing terrible damage, and the gimmick of the best friend increased crit rate is nice, it's not the best. But the reason Todo isn't the best is because whilst he is being classed as an attacker, granted, I've said this many times, don't trust the roll thing, it's always wrong. He is classed as a DPS pretty much, but his kit isn't based around that. It's really annoying, as he is one of those types of units. It's kind of similar to Green Miwa and the unit I'm going to talk about after this, where the main brunt of their damage comes from their ult exclusively, because outside of his ult, Todo is doing bugger all damage. He is doing nothing. He's just one of those cases where he's a really fun unit because of how the best friend status works, and he can do counters and he can black flash on his counters, and if you have best friend status active, you increase the crit rate of the person you've got best friend with. Like, he's a really fun unit. Like, you will use him alongside Red Yuji and you'll hit some fun numbers with the 2 of them together, and it's really satisfying, but he's just not good. You could just have a red buffer instead, or just switch Red Yuji to be the sub DPS and then have Toji behind him, so those 2 together do a brick of damage instead of missing out on damage by using Todo. If you're using Todo, yet again, you're just missing out on damage, and there's 10 million other people who can do what he wants better, except for the counter stuff. The counter stuff is a fun and unique gimmick, but at the same time, just use Red Yaga, Teen Nanami, Red Mai, use a buffer or a debuffer instead. Don't use this guy. When the SP stuff comes out, you'll be a demon. Like, if I had money to bet, I would bet that this dude is going to be, like, top 5 in red, I guess, when SP comes out, because I can see this dude being monstrous, like, as a genuine, like, full-on DPS, and applying best friend to, like, a support at the front. I can see that happening in the future, but as it stands right now, he is one of the weakest in the game, full stop, just as an SSR, because his damage isn't good over the board, and the buffs he provides and stats he provides aren't great. They're just fun, which is a shame. This unit, to me, the next one I'm going to discuss, is one that I've had a beef with for a while, and if you've watched me stream on this channel, which I need to start doing more, to be honest, with, like, my tier lists or whatever, you would know I very much dislike this character, and this is, of course, Red Maki. I'll say this briefly. I was trying to find at least one from each category, but if I'm completely honest, blue across the board just has great units or mid units. When you look at units that stick out here as being bad or, like, not great, you think, like, blue Nanami, blue Gojo's fell off significantly now, and maybe, like, blue Todo. Those 2 can still do significant damage. Like, Todo and Nanami can still do great damage on the right teams, and blue Gojo, you forget, can still carry you through the mass majority of content in the game, and through the, like, fest, like, 40-50 floors of blue content in the Illusory Tower. He isn't optimal anymore, but he's still very much a very strong DPS for, like, newer players, and not even just newer players, like mid to end game players. Once you get past certain flaws in Illusory Tower and sweep, yes, he doesn't stick out, he's not good, he's not great, but before that, before you get into sweep and hard sweep, and before you get to, like, past 50 in Illusory Tower, he's really, really good. His ult is a brick, his buffs are stupid, and he's just good across the board, because most of the content up to that point in the game caps off at, like, 10 turns, so you don't have to worry about him leaving. But as I said, there was no one in blue to talk about. However, there was 2 in red, and the second one in red I'm going to get back to is this green Maki. Red Maki. Friggin' hell. Must be colorblind. I'm going to put gameplay on screen, and I'm going to tell you now, I don't need to put her into the SP system to know that she's bad. I know people will disagree. I know people are going to say to me, oh, how would you know you have an SP there? I don't care. I've pulled more of this character than I have fingers and toes combined, and I wish I was being hyperbolic. This unit haunts me, and it annoys me, and that's probably why there's a bit of a bias against her. But still, let me get into it. So one thing that genuinely annoys me about this unit is, outside of her ult, as I said earlier, her damage is pretty dog water. One thing that genuinely annoyed me, sometimes when a unit gets an SP buff, they will also just buff them externally as well outside of that. They did that with Junpei, did that with Blue Ghetto, and they did that here with Red Maki. Like, the original version, they buffed the damage from 105 to, and they more than doubled it. Oh, that's nice. But they for some reason put a cooldown on it on a 200% damage move. It genuinely baffles me sometimes, right? It genuinely baffles me, some of these decisions they make at Billy or whoever's doing this. Outside of that, skill 1 after the SP, stat buffs and charge rate and taijutsu, not terrible. The debuff on this being only a 10 is a bit annoying because, you know, unless you know for a fact the enemy's going to do exclusively taijutsu, kind of whatever. But it's not an insignificant amount. It's not terrible, I guess. It's just, this move is just, I'm genuinely confuddled by this move being on a cooldown. Like, think about moves that go on cooldown in this game, right? And how strong they tend to be. Like, T Nanami's skill 3. That's the buff is a 90% to all allies. That's why it's on a cooldown. And it costs 30 cursed energy and it still goes on cooldown. Flowing red scale stack with blue camo. Because, you know, how blue flowing red scale stacks. It has to, like, work that way. Because it's like a buff that progresses and stuff, right? Those make sense. This being on cooldown is genuine mental illness. I don't know. I don't understand. I genuinely don't get it. I don't get it at all. I will say this, though. The ult damage, as I said, is not terrible. You can hit some decent numbers with this red Maki, but you have to remember, right? In the world of JJK, Maki is one thing, and that one thing is merely she is just a copy of Toji. And we all know this. And as a result, the question you should ask yourself is literally, okay, they're both on the standard banner. Why would I just not use Toji? He does more damage. He does a brick of damage outside of his ult with his skill 2, skill 1. They can hit filthy numbers, like millions of, like, ridiculous numbers with his skill 1 and 2. His ult also does filthy numbers, and it removes buffs from the enemy, which is really good. I've been getting a lot of use of that recently in other flaws and stuff. That's a really nice thing for his skill 3 and his ult. And he heals more than Maki, and he has a chance to dodge, and he reduces damage more than Maki. Why the hell would I use Maki, even after the SP buffs? You shouldn't. Simple as. If you want a red taijutsu DPS, you could go Yuji, you could go Toji, you could go... Is Panda physical? If he's physical as well, go Panda. Panda can deal 10 times more damage. Well, not 10 times more damage, that's hyperbole, but he can deal a filthy amount, right? Taijutsu... Yeah, is it just taijutsu? Don't let that deceive you. After the SP system, with his friggin' auto skill, he, like, the percentages become filthy. Like, you can hit disgusting damage with this dude's ult, genuinely. But as I say, there is no reason to use Maki at all, ever. Like me, when you pull her, you should be genuinely annoyed. She is an annoying unit to pull. Because with at least Red Todo, he's fun, you know. SP Nobara, she's a monster. Yuji, monster. Yuta, monster, waiting for SP buffs because he's fell off on global a bit. Red Panda, disgusting. Toji, needed right now for sweep and, like, tower and stuff because he's, like, the best... one of the best DPSs for red at the moment. I don't see, as I say, a reason to use this unit ever. She sucks. One thing I will say overall about the cast in Phantom Parade is that there isn't units who are 100% unusable, but these are the 5 where I feel like they need work if people are to use them more. Because where it stands now, there's no reason to. And as a result, those are my top current 5 worst SSRs on global. As I say, Miwa is kind of interchangeable with Green Panda and Mahito, but as I said, Panda having a resurrection status and guaranteed provocation is really nice, and Mahito's percent base damage is good for early tower. He has fell off for recent stuff, and as I said before, this Miwa is the best out of these 5, right? Dagon's trash, Inumaki's trash, and just replaceable in every aspect. Miwa is yet again replaceable in every aspect, but can still be usable. Todo is unfortunately not good, and Maki, there's no reason to use her. So, yeah. And the way it stands as well, like the new units coming out, there's not really any bad ones. Naobito is kind of a mixed bag and has his niche uses, but he's not great, but he's not bad. Kusakabe is goated, but that's pretty much everyone else new until we get the news for the 2nd anniversary. We won't know who else is coming, and for the other anniversary stuff on global. But as it stands right now, that's everything I've got to say. Those are the top 5 worst SSRs in global, in my opinion. That being said, choose my dudes. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.